My name is Ray Shackleford.
And I'm Adidiong Obote.
And welcome to Fresh Perspective. This is a show where we talk about the diaspora and us coming together as an African community and African American community. We discuss politics, civic participation, and the community as a whole. And again, we just want to reinforce the fact that we're trying to come together as one. We definitely want to hear from you guys as it relates to different topics you want us to discuss and how we can work together to come together better as a community as a whole.
So today we have a special guest, Miss Yinka Thomas Oboja.
Yeah.
All right. And she is the CEO and founder of Trade Expo Africa, correct?
Correct.
All right. So tell us about what Trade Expo Africa is, especially for those who don't know what that is.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. Trade Expo Africa was set up as the first business-to-business trade show for small businesses in African countries who are looking at bringing export-oriented products into the U.S. market.
Okay.
So it's also for small businesses in the U.S. who are looking for increased visibility and market share. Okay. So when I talk about Trade Expo Africa, I like people to think about our focus on small businesses, not the medium, not the large. It's really for small businesses in African countries and in the U.S. and to look for a way to promote bilateral trade between these two sets of people.
So what are you describing or classifying as a small business? Like, is it by a certain amount that they're producing from a profit standpoint? Is it by employees, some combination? What does that look like?
Yeah, well, very good question, because there's so many definitions in terms of small businesses, and for me, it's really about, a small business is a business that is operated by, a private sector company, owned and operated, and it's limited in terms of size and revenue. So a company that has employees of about maybe 50 and below, or revenue in terms of about $250,000 per annum, and that's relative when you change that to the African currency and things like that. So it's usually in terms of I have a company and I have anything like a local bakery, for example, who has like 10 employees, or 15 employees. It's a small business.
Right.
Someone who has manufacturing companies that make branded T-shirts and things like that, and I have about 50 employees. They're a small business, And then in terms of the overall revenue at the end of the year, about $250,000 and below. That would be our ideal small business for Trade Expo Africa.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why was it important for you to found this expo?
Very interesting question. I started as an exporter, I make African headgears. We call them gillies. We call them gillies in our own, in Nigeria. And when I started back home in Nigeria, I used to export it a lot to the US because I had a lot of people ordering, from different states in the US, Canada, Australia, different places. And that's because they didn't really have easy access to people who would help them to tie it. Because, the African community, we love to party. Yeah. So there's always an event or the other, and then they don't have people to help them to do it. So I realized that I was exporting a lot to the US, and that was part of what informed the need to actually come here and establish a base here. While I was doing all that legwork, I realized that there were so many other businesses who also had viable export-oriented products and did not have access to market. Who am I supposed to speak with in the US? Who do I know? There's just so many people doing stuff, and the information is not even out there for them. So I told myself that when I get to the US, I'll be able to look for platforms whereby these guys are able to showcase their art. And then there's also something called the African Growth Opportunities Act. It's called AGWA. It was signed into bill during the time of Bill Clinton. It's actually a trade act between sub-Saharan African countries and the US, whereby you can export certain qualifying items into the US without paying duty. A lot of African countries don't know that. A lot of SMEs, small businesses don't know that. A lot of government in the African countries are also not educating their small businesses to know that, hey, your product qualifies for it. Over 6,000 products qualify for that.
Wow.
So many people don't know that. So my product qualifies for it. So when I came here, I said, well, where's the better place to do it? Houston has, it's a good place.
Yeah.
We have like the fourth largest, busiest port and things like that. And I'm like, okay, let's put this together. And, that was really actually what led to the birth of it, because I realized that there's so many businesses in Africa that would like to, penetrate the US market and vice versa.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I wasn't aware of that act.
Me neither.
So many people are not.
Right.
So we're learning today on Fresh Perspective. I guess for me, when you mention that act, what are some of the other examples of products that are included in it.
Okay.
And then I know for some trade agreements, there's an expiration.
Right.
And even with the current administration, some of the things he's been doing, and I don't want to go into that.
Better do.
But I'm just curious, have they had any impact on that act? Hopefully not. So we can kind of give viewers an idea of what that looks like and some of the opportunities that they may have access to from a business perspective.
Okay. The Africa Growth Opportunities Act is going to end 2025.
Okay.
So essentially we have
so
about
time.
Yes.
how many years? 8 years?
18,
7 years.
7 years.
7
Yeah,
years.
7
You know,
years.
so yeah, that's still a bit of time,
Yeah.
you know. And so yeah, that's it for that. And then we have a lot of things in the agro. So anything agric, you know, and that's a lot. Those who do, you know, spices, you know, ginger, condiments, whatever it is, that's a wide range right there.
Yeah.
You know, a lot in the oil and gas as well, a lot in the textile. So you have the textile and the non-textile. So you know that the things that we call, you know, our Ankara, African fabrics, they're really, you know, very popular now.
Yeah.
So things like that are under the Agro Act. There are about 6,000 of them. They have a website whereby there's so much information on their website. You know, to see. And then at the event, we're also going to have somebody from the Agro office who's going to be on the plenary session.
Okay.
So she'll also be able to answer a lot of questions regarding the Agro, you know, but more importantly, the onus lies on the governments of these qualifying countries to really disseminate the information down to the small businesses.
No, that's amazing. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. So how do people get involved with the African Trade Expo?
Okay, you can either be involved as a vendor or as a sponsor or a buyer, an attendee. You know, it all depends on what capacity you want to be involved.
Okay.
You know, so we're having it at the Hyatt Regency. You know, so if as a vendor you feel that you have a product, you know, or a service that is essential for small businesses, because even though a lot of focus is on Africa, you know, we still have a lot of local businesses who are not even African owned. You know, but they offer services that also affect the African community. You know, at the end of the day, the language of business it's not based on race or culture, whatever it is. You know, so it's so they can either come as vendors. You know, so we have all the good packages for that, or you have a company that focuses on small businesses, or you support small businesses, and there are quite a number of them like that who want to support in terms of resources. Not necessarily financial, you know, because for example, we have Wells Fargo who's going to come to do a workshop on lending for small businesses. You know, we're partnering with the U.S. Small Business Administration who's also going to come and do a workshop on certain things. You know, we have the Port of Houston, you know, because that's a major port. You know, when trade, in terms of trade, they're very vital to what we do. You know, so our strategy is to partner with private and public agencies who do things in terms of trade, import, export, and small businesses. You know, so how can people be a part of it? We really have to know, are you going to be an attendee? You want to come and see what's happening? You know, what are people doing? How can I, you know, be a partner to someone, or what's even happening in the industry? You just want to see. Then you're welcome to be there. You know, if you have a product that you want people to see and all that, you should come in as a vendor. If you want to come in as a sponsor in whatever capacity, because it's within, you know, your area of purview or whatever, then you can also be a part. So it depends on the capacity in which they want to be a part of it. You know, but I like to tell people that when you think about Texas, think about our love for small businesses, how we want them to grow, how we want to promote bilateral trade between Africa and the US.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that your business doesn't have to necessarily be African owned.
No, it doesn't.
It can be any kind of business.
Yeah.
So somebody from Asian community, the Black community, or whoever wants to be a part as a vendor, they can come in and sell, you know, their soaps or their fashion line or their technology there at the Trade Expo.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, because we're also partnering with a lot of chambers of commerce. So they're doing exactly. And then, you know, for different chambers of commerce, you know, they have different visions and mission statements. You know, so some their focus is on the Hispanic community, some on the Black American. You know, so it all depends on all of that. You know, so the idea is for them to speak with their network, you know, of members, you know, to be out there. Because I, for example, you know, I may be Asian, but yet I offer like virtual offices.
Right.
You know, somebody else offers like, you know, staffing. Somebody else does IT. You get what I mean? You know, so sure, once you offer a service, you know, that benefits the small business, the Africa part of it is in terms of how we can get African small businesses who are based in their home countries to bring in their products here. But in the US circle, it's not really segregated to just the Africans. Yeah.
Okay. So I kind of want to ask a question about like the small businesses in Africa. What has been your experience in terms of like that person who had an idea and now they want to turn it into a business? Here in America, it's a little easier to kind of start up your business. You can just go to the courthouse, you go to the JP court, sign, get your DBA, your business. But in Africa, I'm kind of curious in some of the countries, how easy or is there a true struggle to get that business up and running?
Yeah. I was just speaking to Ray about that, before the show. That's quite interesting because honestly, can I be honest on the show?
Be honest, girl.
Okay, so I have been doing business, for how long now? I can't remember, but for a very long time. And in Nigeria, Nigeria is like the face of the black race, So, yeah, honestly, so doing business in Nigeria and doing it here, honestly, they're pulled apart.
Right.
Yeah, because there is a lot of bureaucracy in the US as well, but it's nothing compared to what you have in Africa. So, like you rightly said, I can just go to the courthouse, register my business, go to the bank, but there's so many more hurdles that you have to face, when you're doing business back home. And I was just telling him that if you're able to do business, in Africa and thrive as a business, when you come to the US, you're like,
it's a little easier.
What's this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because those structures are there already. Even though you're going to pay for it, but they are there. But that takes a lot of pressure off you already.
Right.
Because a lot of things that the government will provide for you, they'll be relatively cheaper than if you have to provide them for yourself. And private companies don't provide it.
Right.
Like I was speaking with him, if you're in Africa, you have to think of, how am I going to, I don't have energy, I don't have light. How am I going to get a generator? How am I going to fill my generator? How am I going to get, water to run in the tap? There's just so much that you're thinking about. So whatever profit that you're making, a lot of it is eroded by all these extra things. But in a system whereby, the government is already there to provide those basic amenities, it helps the business to have a lot more in terms of profit. And they're able to grow.
So you don't have to worry about your company and where it's going to be, if it's going to have lights, a toilet. Here in America, as opposed to in Africa, you have those things.
And those are definitely things, I think, and we talked about it, is we take it for granted because those are things that we don't even think of because we don't know.
Right. It's already a standard.
Honestly.
And so when you were saying those things, it was very enlightening to me because those are not things we have to worry about.
Right.
And I definitely want to look at that further in terms of those discrepancies when you look at starting a business here versus in Africa as soon as we get back from this break.
Welcome back to Fresh Perspective on Vineyard TV, channel 15.8. Again, we're with special guest, Miss Yinka Thomas Ogoja. Yeah. All right.
Doing good.
So, before the break, you were telling us about the different discrepancies of starting a business in Africa compared to starting a business here in America. And I'm kind of curious to know, in regards to starting up your businesses, what your trade expo is going to kind of shed light to for those who are wanting to do export from America to Africa. And you talked about those different discrepancies. Will your trade show be able, or your trade expo be able to kind of provide information for those who are curious in doing international exports to different African countries?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, they will. And that in terms of export, there has to be a lot of things to do with logistics.
Right.
In terms, and all of that, there's some more popular routes and other routes, so there's just so much information. The thing about the expo is that you're going to have a lot of resource at the venue.
Awesome.
Like I said, it's really for, and those guys are coming in terms of sponsorship, their partnership is in terms of, educating the people in terms of if you want to be an exporter or even if you want to be an expert, what are the things that are involved in it? Because back home, if I'm in Africa, in Nigeria, there are certain steps that you have to take, to be an exporter, depending on what you're exporting. For example, somebody who is into the food business, you have to have like FDA certification and things like that. So it all depends on the industry you're in, to be able to know what regulations, what certifications are required and things like that. And then, which is why we are also getting somebody, like I mentioned, from the AGWA office, to come and speak in terms of, because sometimes, some people don't even know that their products qualify for that. At the end of the day, it's all about access to information.
Right.
Which is what a lot of people don't have, because what you don't have, you can't utilize.
Right.
So that is why we're encouraging people to come out there. Information is power.
Right.
You can't rise above your level of information.
Right.
So yes, if they come to the event, they'll be able to know what it takes, what industry they're in, and what it takes for them, to be an exporter, what certifications they need to do, what industry they need to be in, and so many other things like that.
Okay.
Do people need to come in at a certain level in their business, or if I just have an idea, would the trade expo be beneficial for me, or is it if I'm at a certain level? Because I know earlier we were talking about more so focusing on small businesses and being at that place. So is that the ideal person, or is it something that anybody can take advantage of?
Quite honestly, anybody could take advantage of it, because I have gone to quite a number of trade shows without having any intention to buy anything. It's just to see what is new in the market. For example, the Canton Fair in China, I usually go for that. It happens like twice a year, where you have a lot of manufacturers from Asia coming in with their new products and services and things like that, And I tell people, sometimes you're thinking, oh, I want to start something. You see a lot of individuals saying, oh, you know what, I want to start business, but I don't know what I want to do. Right. I always have some spare time. I don't know what, So sometimes you want to go to an environment like that, whereby, it just challenges you, and then it just triggers something in you.
Yeah.
So it's for the person who has no idea and is thinking, okay, let me just go there. You have nothing to lose anyways. You get what I mean?
True.
Exactly. It's also for those who already have an idea of what they want to do, and they're probably looking for, how to go about it, or they're looking for off-takers, they're looking for partners in Africa or other states in America and things like that, So it's really about networking. It's about, meeting people with like minds and seeing whether, something is going to trigger or jiggle something in you that, like, okay, fine, I could try this or not. Okay. Because sometimes some people just require the push, and they require that one-on-one connect.
Absolutely.
It's more, it's beyond. Okay, I'm going on social media, I'm seeing things, but I come to your store and I see what you're offering, and I'm thinking, okay, I like this. How can I do business with this person? There's a lot that can go on in terms of face-to-face, meetings, compared to just virtual stuff.
So the Trade Expo happens once a year, right?
Yes, this is actually our maiden edition, and we're excited about it.
Okay.
So how do people, I guess, get access to the information year round? Like, if for some reason they can't get to the Trade Expo, do you guys have social media, or are there different avenues for them to continually get educated and get access to things like the AGWA and know how they can start a business? Because for me, I plan to be at the expo,
I plan to be there as well.
Even if I'm not able to make it, I still am very interested, because I plan to look at doing different ventures in Africa at some point. So I know that our viewers will be interested in it well. So what avenues do you have for them to get that information on a continual basis?
Like you rightly said, the social media is the main one. We have a website, which is www.tradeexpoafrica.com. All the resources are there if you want to come in as an exhibitor, as a buyer, or whatever it is, our partners and all of that, that's there. And we're going to continue to update that, as time goes on. So we're going to have like a yearly event, but during the course of the year, we're going to have different workshops and things like that that still promote trade and things like, but this is kind of like going to be like a major big event whereby, we're inviting people from all over Africa. So we have people who are already registered from Kenya, South Africa, Nairobi, different places who are coming in. So we're expecting that it's going to be something that is going to be worth their while. At the end of the day, when people come there, you don't want people to come all the way from these places, and you don't have people to come and have a look at what they're doing. Right. You get what I mean? So in as much as the vendors are important, the attendees are also important. So on our website, you'll always have access to that. We also have an Instagram handle, which is @Trade Expo Africa, easy. We're on Twitter as well, @Trade Expo Africa, and we're on Facebook. Trade Expo Africa, likewise on LinkedIn. Okay. So they'll always get information somewhere around all of that.
Okay. So, as you know, our show is called Fresh Perspective, trying to give a different perspective on both the African community and the African American community. So, I'm curious to know what would be your relationship between the Black Expo and you have the Trade African Expo. Is there any kind of talks of collaborating or doing something in the future?
Quite honestly, I tell people the language of business is collaboration. There is really no point trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
You know, the point is that everybody has their areas of expertise, their areas of strength, and all of that. So I know the Black Expo is a not-for-profit organization, but at the end of the day, their focus is on promoting businesses and trade amongst the urban community, and then youth development, which is very close to what we're doing as well. You know, so there is no reason why in the near future we're saying we want to partner with, if there are reasons for us to partner with them, you know. So I really would look forward to that as well, you know, because the other organizations we're partnering with, like I mentioned to you, the Wells Fargo, the US SBA, you know, the Port of Houston, it's all in the same vein, you know, because we're all promoting the same thing. We're not looking for like one big giant and all of that, you know, we're all doing the same thing. So why not collaborate? You know, so yeah, we're looking forward to collaborating with the Black Expo. Yeah, sure, we are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I guess, because you're born in Africa, right? And coming over to the U.S., what would you say were some of the biggest challenges in terms of getting established or getting the Trade Expo off the ground? And as you look forward in terms of those collaborations, do you foresee any challenges in partnering with individuals within the Black community or other communities as a whole? And I know you mentioned different chambers. You have the Hispanic Chamber, Greater Houston Black Chamber of Commerce. I think it's like the second oldest chamber in the country. And they just got a new president, Jeff Wallace. He came from the Altus Foundation and previously from the Urban League, so I actually know Jeff. But what have been some of those challenges or hurdles? And if you do have any advice for somebody that's coming from Africa or vice versa in terms of ways to maneuver around those things to be successful?
You know, quite honestly, I wouldn't say there has been any challenge. You know, and that's the difference again. Because everywhere that, you know, for you to be a business person, an entrepreneur, you have to be self-motivated. You know, it's not like, oh, I feel like it today, I don't feel like it tomorrow. You know, so, and then you have to know what you have an idea of what you want to do. It gets better as you move, you know, so I knew what I wanted to do, and I just Googled the addresses of all the places I wanted to go to. I just went there. And I told them what I wanted to do. And of course, it wasn't just like, you know, telling them. I'd already, you know, there was a lot of homework that I had done as well, you know. So you're going there with something tangible. Because nobody wants to put their brand on something that doesn't really have any form of value. You get what I mean? You know, so everywhere that I have been to, at least 95% of those places have, you know, they've been willing to cooperate with us, you know, to give us information and things like that, which is not really the way it is, you know, back home. Because at that point, you're thinking, okay, how do I book appointments to meet with this person? How do I see this? You know, so you spend all your time doing all of that without really getting the substance of what you want to do. I haven't really, you know, been faced with that kind of challenge here. That's the truth. Yeah, so I wouldn't say there has been any challenge. I think at the end of the day, wherever there is a challenge, inherent in it, there are opportunities. You know, so that's why if I go somewhere and, you know, I'm not able to like make a headway, you know, I don't look back and I'm like, oh, I feel sad, because I know that I gave my all, really. But they are more receptive here in terms of willingness to help, as long as it's within their portfolio. They will be willing to help. That's what I've seen about here, and I commend, you know, people that working.
Awesome.
Yeah, honestly.
That's been great. I'm glad to hear that. Actually.
Yeah, honestly, yeah.
So I have a question about, so you mentioned this is business to business trade. So for those individuals who are African, and they have African businesses, and you already mentioned that you have some from Kenya, all these different places, maybe they're listening today and they too are interested in attending the trade show. What is that process for them to get here? Do they have to apply for a visa, their products? Do they have to ship it down? Like how would they get involved as a vendor?
Okay. Well, you know, we can do everything. We can provide everything, you know. How are you going to get from your country to my country? well, you're going to figure that out,
right.
you know? And that's what it is. You know, you're not going to spoon feed everybody. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know, if you're going to thrive as a business, a sustainable business, there's a level of, you have to do the legwork as well.
Right.
You know, so they have to find out from their countries. You know, we can give them invitation letters, but we let them know that, you know, whatever the decisions of the embassies are, you know, in the various countries, they have no influence in that.
Okay.
You know, and then what we do is that for those who have paid and they refuse them the visas, we always refund their full money back, you know. And then the good thing is that we're also partnering with major retail stores. You know, we're still in the concluding stages of it, so I don't want to mention names, you know, so that they can also have a one-on-one meeting, you know, with interaction with the African manufacturers and see how they can bring their products on board. So, for example, I see somebody from Namibia who is doing these very lovely Ankara bags, you know, and then one of these retail stores is thinking, oh, wow, it would be nice for us to have your bags on board. You know, they are able to have a one-on-one interaction with them to see what it takes, you know, for them to be a vendor. So the procurement department of those chain stores that will be represented on Saturday will be able to speak with them, you know, the question and answer series time, to be able to know what they need to do to be a partner. So in terms of what they require to export, they would have to find out, because different countries, you know, have different regulations.
Okay.
Yeah, but for those who are operating locally, that's more easier for them.
Okay. And is there a fee associated with the Trade Expo?
It's free to come in. Attendance is free, you know, but of course for the vendors, yeah, it's very affordable. Trust me. It's very affordable, yeah.
So if you come in the 10, but if you want to be a vendor, there is vendor fees.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Fresh Perspective will be in the building.
Yeah.
And Yinka, we want to thank you. You've been a great guest. You've given us a wealth of knowledge as it relates to the Trade Expo and doing business in Africa and in the U.S. and that exchange as a whole. We want to thank our viewers for tuning in. I'm Ray Shackelford.
And I'm Edidion Ovote.
And this has been
Fresh Perspective.